Think about it. Like, how many times have you told yourself, it'll be faster if I just handle this, or I don't want to burden anyone? In the short term, it feels productive, but in the long term, you stay stuck in survival mode. Well, today we're going to unpack the unseen mental, emotional, and relational toll of, as a leader, trying to carry it all. Why not just let it go? Well, listen, let's go ahead and get into it. Hello there. Welcome back to Transformation Station. We're doing the Best in Class series. That's right. This is the podcast where we get to talk about real things that matters to leaders so that you and I can continue to lead with clarity, impact, and heart. And today we're tackling an issue that many high performing leaders have challenges with. That's right. We're talking about trying to do it all. And today I'm super excited because we have an amazing guest. Let me tell you a little bit about Gary. Today's guest is Gary Montalvo, a leadership and mindset coach who helps big-hearted entrepreneurs stop being the bottleneck in their business. With over 20 years of experience coaching solopreneurs, startups, and executives around the world, Gary is known for his real talk, practical strategies, and contagious energy. Listen, I want you right now to share this podcast. Go ahead and hit that button and get ready for an exciting conversation that's going to be grounded, honest, and packed with tools. Gary, welcome to the show today.
Hey. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining the Transformation Station community. All right, so let's get right into it. Gary, many leaders that I have talked to and business owners, they share this constant pressure that they feel to keep on doing more, as if our worth is somehow tied to our output, right? It shows up like feeling that pressure, longer hours, fuller calendars, right? Kind of like that quiet belief that slowing down means somehow I'm failing. So let me ask you this. Why do you think so many high achievers equate doing more with being more valuable or somehow more successful? If I do more, then I'm more successful at the job. Why do you think so many of us kind of fall into that trap?
Because it works up
Mm,
until a point. The hustle works, right?
mm,
Um, Let me back up. I think first we have to go back to the beginning, right? If you think about how we start to begin our training in the world, right? You the measurements start by how much homework are you doing? How
mhm,
much chores are you doing? The more that we do these things that get us approval,
mhm,
we start to learn that, oh, okay, this is how we teach responsibility, right?
mm,
If you do all the things, if you check all the boxes and you are a good student, then mom and dad would, mom and dad or dad or mom and dad, whatever your situation is, they start to
mhm,
go, yeah, you're good, we love you, we approve of you. You start to
mm,
go, oh, I'm doing the right thing. So the
mhm,
training starts very young. It starts from the very beginning. It's the system that we are sort of molded in. And if you look someone like me, for example, I'm the oldest. I'm the child of immigrants. I am
mhm,
the oldest son. So when you are the oldest son in an immigrant home, you are basically like a pseudo parent, right?
mhm,
Like you are like I
mhm,
used to pick up my brothers from school. I used to sit down and do my homework with them. I used to like make sure that they were, behaving. And so again, how much am I doing? The
mm,
value that I bring to the house, the measurements that I'm receiving from my parents, whether the approval that I'm receiving is based
mhm,
on the task that I'm doing. How much
mm,
am I helping, right?
mm,
And then you get to college
mhm,
or wherever you are. If you look at how we promote the hardest workers. We
Mm,
promote the ones that are putting in the more sweat equity, the ones that are hustling more, the ones that are sacrificing more. You know, so when I got to school, I remember, so before I became a coach, my first career, I was an art director. And so
mhm,
I went to the School of Visual Arts. It was a very prestigious art school in New York City. And I got there and I very quickly realized, oh, I'm one of the few people in the room that looks like me.
mhm,
And not only that, I very quickly realized that, oh, I'm one of the few people in the room that doesn't have mommy and daddy helping them,
mm,
in that moment. So I very quickly had to figure out how to survive in that environment.
mhm,
And how
mhm.
did I survive? I outworked everybody.
I see. Mhm,
I outworked everybody. Because that's what I could bring to the table. That was one of the chess pieces that I could control. My
mm,
work.
mm,
No one could
mm,
tell me otherwise, right? And I wasn't necessarily the most talented person in the room. I
mhm,
definitely didn't have the most resources and all that, but I outworked everybody. And
mhm,
so it worked. I was an
mhm,
art director at Sony Music at 22 years old,
mhm, mhm,
right? That hustle that I put in worked. It got me there, you know? And the problem is that it's just not sustainable long term,
mm,
right? That hustle and that push will get you a lot of results. It works, and people look for that. We look for those things, that we look for people that have work ethic. We look people for, because what it basically starts to communicate is like, this person is committed, this person
mhm,
is dependable, this
mhm,
person is trustworthy, this person sees the vision, they're a team player. Like, it starts to communicate all these things that in an environment like a company, it's really valuable,
mhm,
in any type of career. So
mhm.
it works, that hustle and that grind works, and the system is set up to measure the hustle and the grind. So it's a very effective strategy.
1000%. So, to our listeners and viewers, we're talking about why we perceive that so many high achievers equate doing more with being valuable. And Gary talked to us about a few things, right? He talked to us about our identity being tied to achievement and gave a personal story. What's yours? What's your personal story in terms of, I mean, and most leaders, I dare say, go through a phase of this, right? Where their identity is tied to their achievement. He also talked about control and certainty, and I can definitely relate to that. It's like, if I do it, I know that it's going to be done the way I need it to be done. So let me just go ahead and do it. Right, rather than hoping that Gary will figure out how to do it the way I'm instructing him to do it, or the
Yeah.
way the company says it's right. But that is not always the best way to go about it, right? Gary, I think of another one in terms of, I know I've seen for myself, sometimes fearing that I'm going to fall behind, right? If I don't work
Yeah.
the longer hours, if I don't go that extra mile, right? Even to my detriment, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall behind. If I don't keep pushing, somebody else will pass me. But that's not leading out of authenticity,
Yeah.
you know?
Look, here's the thing. The hustle will definitely work for a point. It For a period of time, it will get you to a certain milestone. The problem is that it's not something that you can scale. At a certain point, you're going to tap out. How many hours you have in the day, you're going to tap out with just how much you know and how much you can do. You're
Mm-hmm,
gonna tap out with like, just physically, like, your body can only do what it can do. We have to sleep, we have to eat. There's just So when you are playing the game of, I'm just going to, you know outwork and produce, you're gonna hit a wall. I don't know
mm-hmm,
when that is for you. I don't know, there are many factors that will inform what your wall is, but the wall is coming. Like, the wall is
mm-hmm,
coming. Most of you have probably hit it already at some point.
mm-hmm,
And so now that the other thing that's bankrupt about this is, you started to kind of point to it, is that working hard because you believe in what you're doing, it's a very different come from than working hard because you have something to prove,
Mhm.
working hard because you don't want people in the room to say that you're
Mhm.
not doing a good job, working hard because you're afraid to let others down. When that's what's motivating it, the you know, then working hard becomes energy leak. It becomes
Mhm.
something that it's like trying to keep a house of cards going, right? You're
Mhm.
just being motivated by the approval, by the not letting people down, by you. Sometimes, and sometimes the person that the biggest person you're letting down is yourself.
Myself. Yeah, say it. Say
Okay,
it.
like
It's true.
sometimes you're the one. I mean, most
Mhm.
of the time you're the one that's judging yourself
Mhm.
extremely hard, beating yourself up, trying to keep up with some standards that are not reasonable, that you would never hold another human being, especially someone you love to, right? Like you would say, come on, give yourself a break, but we don't do that with ourselves. Right?
Mercy.
We're very judgmental and very unkind when it comes to ourselves. So now
Yes.
if you get to a certain point and you've hit this wall and you want to continue growing, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you want to continue growing the business. Well,
Mhm.
now you have to figure out how to work differently. You have to figure
Yes.
out how to leverage people. You
Yes.
have to figure out how to leverage culture. You
Mhm.
have to figure out how to leverage systems,
Mhm.
because what got you there won't get you there, right? What got you here won't get you there. So there
Mhm.
has to be some kind of transformation in your process. And a lot of uh, uh, um, a very common path that you see this in is like you see somebody work really hard, they get a
Mhm.
promotion, right?
Mhm.
Now they're starting to manage other people,
Mhm.
but they're still doing all the work. They're still not holding their team accountable. They're not empowering their team. They're holding all the decision making. That's a big giveaway right there. If everyone in your team has to come to you to
Mhm.
get an approval or a yes or an okay,
That's it.
then you're the only one holding the ropes.
Mercy.
Everything is going to bottleneck with you. So how
Mercy.
do I start to train other people around me to be able to discern the
Mhm.
decisions that I want them to make, how I want them to make it? How do I start to train people to take responsibility and ownership over things? When they
Mhm.
make mistakes, which are going to happen, that's another thing. Like if you're someone who avoids mistakes at all costs, well, when
Mhm.
you have a team, it's really hard to avoid mistakes. You're going to want to control everything,
Mhm.
right?
1000%.
You're going to
One
want to
thousand.
control everything. But then that teaches them that, oh, I don't have to. There's nothing more disempowering than being with a leader who just like takes the responsibility away from you, because then you go, okay, well, what's the point of me doing this if they're just going to redo it? Or what's the
Mhm.
point of me doing this if they're going to tell me no, do it differently? But
Absolutely.
anyway, I'm going off on tangents here.
I don't know. As
um,
you're talking, you're causing me to think about this quote. And it says, every time a leader insists on doing it all, they unintentionally shrink the space where others could grow. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, for that leader who feels like they have to control everything or everybody has to come to them for approval, you're right. Those who are on the team, it's kind of like, well, my voice doesn't matter.
yeah.
My creativity is going to be put down. Why should I be creative? There's no opportunity or room for innovation or for us to grow, right? And so, leaders who are watching and listening right now, this is a point of assessment and reflection as far as your leadership style and how you're leading the culture in your organization. Are you causing, as Gary said, do people fear making mistakes in your organization? As a leader, do you have an approachability where if someone makes a mistake, they know they can come and you guys can talk through it? Or is there a stifling of creativity and innovation and approachability where the team is truly a team where every voice matters? So Gary, this leads me then to want to ask you this question. What, from your experience, do you believe is the biggest mindset trap that you have seen for heart-centered business owners fall into? Right, what's the biggest mindset trap that you've seen business owners fall into it? And the part B, what do you recommend in terms of like how do they get out of it? Teach us,
J-
please.
Just one, huh? What's the biggest one? I mean, I mean, I think I want to just tie it back to what we've been talking about, because for sure, one of them is collapsing your self-worth and value with your results, right? And trying to do it all yourself. I think that when you're heart-centered, you are you are driven by relationships, right? We're heart people, that so we're driven by our relationships with people. They're very important with people. And so one of the biggest things that heart-centered struggle with is not upsetting other people, not wanting to let other people down, not wanting to risk the relationships in any sort of way, right? So what does that look like in a business scenario? It means that maybe someone made a mistake, but you never held them accountable for it. You never talked to them about it. Maybe someone is coming into work late and you haven't um, addressed the issue. Maybe you have someone in their team that you need them to step up. You need them to take on more responsibility. You see that they're capable of more, but you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to make them uncomfortable. You don't want to push on and give them, more responsibility. Um, that I always, for me, all of those conversations are an act of love. Holding someone accountable is an act of love. Calling somebody forward and challenging them and saying, I know you can do better, is an act of love.
Mm,
You know, letting somebody know, hey, this is you're not performing to the standards that we need you to perform. That's an act of love. I can have the conversation because I'm angry at you or mad at you, or you're upsetting me, stressing me out, adding more work to
mhm,
my already busy to-do list. Or I can have that conversation with you because I care about you. I want you to grow. I
mhm,
believe that you can grow. I believe in your future and the future that you have on this team.
mm,
Same conversation, but the come from is way different. And your experience as a heart-centered person is going to be completely different if
mm,
you are rooted in that these tough conversations that need to happen are an act of love.
mhm,
When I first started coaching, I was the biggest cheerleader ever. And I remember I started my coaching training started. I was in this leadership program that I was um, once I graduated my leadership training, I could go back and mentor the next class. And so I was in my process of mentoring this group, and I had like 5 people that I was really that I was in charge of and helping them for 3 months get to their goals. And halfway through, we do this check-in exercise where we look at all of their goals and we see where they are in the process. And they were failing terribly. About almost 2 months into the process, they were failing. They were just failing miserably. And I realized that, well, what's the common denominator between everybody? This is 5 individuals and they're all failing. What's the common denominator? Me. I was the common denominator. And what was happening was I was just a cheerleader. They loved me. They loved me, right? They would cry for me, but I was not pushing them. I was not standing for them. I was not taking them there and saying no, like
mhm,
you're gonna do this. And so that day when I realized that, I literally like fell to the floor in my kitchen. I remember it so vividly. I was crying on the kitchen floor because I was so heartbroken that these group of people that I love so much, that I had given so much of my time, were failing because I was unwilling to
Mm.
get myself out of the way. I was
Mercy.
unwilling to risk them not liking me. I was unwilling to have uncomfortable conversations with
Mm.
them. So all I did was rah rah, cheer 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 cheer, you can do it, and but I wasn't taking them to the mat. And in that
Mm.
moment, I declared that I will no longer be the reason why somebody doesn't win.
Mercy.
I will no longer be the reason why somebody does not win. And so I had to start training myself to be someone who can have uncomfortable conversations. I
Mm.
had to start training myself to be someone who can say the things that needed to be said in order for this person to have their breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm known. People that work with me know that I hit people over the head with a 2x4.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm known for my real talk. I'm known for I still want to be liked.
Mm-hmm.
I still want approval. Those things, those human defense mechanism and needs are still there within me, but I
Mm-hmm.
no longer let them run the show.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I no longer let them run the show, because if I do, and my point of view is, this might be my only shot with you.
Mm-hmm.
This might be my only shot. Those of you that are listening, this might be my only shot with you. I may never come across your path again. So I have to say what there is to say in this moment, right? And if God is putting it in my heart right now to say, and I don't say it, then I'm not in integrity with myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not following the my instincts. I'm not honoring my truth. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really important for us as leaders to do that, to say what there is to say, to stand for people, to call them up, right? To interrupt what's not working. The
Mm-hmm.
key is, you do it from love.
Yes.
You do it from a deep stand. You do it from an understanding that you see,
Mm-hmm.
like, what they're fully capable of.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you're judging them, the moment you are the moment that you're speaking from your annoyance
Mm-hmm.
and from your, like, which
Mm-hmm.
sometimes happens, right? Like, if I'm uncomfortable having this conversation, but now you're forcing me to have this conversation because you've been late every day,
Mm-hmm.
it's very easy for me to be human in that moment and just get triggered and just go, I'm so annoyed at Adrian. She knows that she's not supposed to be late. She knows the rules, but now I got to go and have this conversation.
But
But
that can't be the norm.
yeah, but if I come, Adrian, listen, I value you.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that being late is against the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to ask, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's that about? How can I support you? Is something, sometimes something may be going, there might be something going on at home. There might be, like, maybe her schedule needs to change. Maybe if you just change, maybe Adrian has to run up and drop the kids to school every day, and it's always a struggle. And if her schedule just changed from 9 to 9:30 and she could work an extra half hour, like,
Mm-hmm.
Adrian would never be late again. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably something you could easily do,
Yes.
right? But if you never have a conversation, if you never get curious, if you never stop judging Adrian, if you never get committed to empowering Adrian past whatever
Mm-hmm.
circumstance she's dealing with, that doesn't get unfurled, that doesn't get
Mm-hmm.
discovered.
Mercy. So here in Best in Class series, we always like to take a moment to give our listeners and our viewers an opportunity again to have some reflection, right? Gary just dropped some serious nuggets, and not just necessarily like to tell us, but he talked about reality and real life. And Gary, as you were talking, I thought about a couple of things. So one, boundaries. Boundaries are a part of authentic leadership, right? Gary talked about, being in that space and place as a leader where, you want to, get along with everybody, but not having the hard conversations. But he realized in time that saying no was good. right? Having boundaries, being able to have the difficult conversations. And so, leaders, I want to invite you to just stop and assess, how are you as a leader framing your boundaries to where it unifies the team, not pulls people away. And then I thought about something else as you were talking, right? We talked about, as a leader, we many times have said here in this podcast that when I meet you, you're already in a relationship with you. If you don't understand the relationship that you have with you, then the relationship that you have with
Mm,
your team or around will be crazy, won't make sense. Why? Because
mm.
everybody's interacting with you through your mask. And so we're talking about leaders understanding your identity as a leader, anchoring your self-worth in being, not in doing, in being present, being fully aware, being engaged, right? And then Gary talked about, being that leader that is there so the team can succeed, right? And this quote here says, your value isn't in the hours you give away, but in the depth of transformation that you facilitate.
Mm.
That's
Yes.
our role as a leader. It's to facilitate transformation in our team, corporately and individually. So Gary, as you were talking, I thought of this question, which says, what are some of the less obvious costs, mental, emotional, relational, of trying to carry everything alone? What would you say are some of the less obvious costs?
I mean, I think there's a way that when you hustle like that, you're pretty comfortable sacrificing yourself, right?
Mm,
You're pretty comfortable pushing yourself and, losing sleep, like whatever all the ways that we sacrifice ourselves. The
mm,
thing that I think people don't realize that is that those types of sacrifices have these little ripple effects. When you are you know a shell of a person, when you
mm,
have a job that you're working 60 hours and you're stressed, and you don't feel fully self-expressed and fully realized, well, that shows up not just in your job. That shows up in how you are at home. That
mhm,
shows up in the type of parent you are, the type
mhm,
of partner that you are, that
mhm,
the type of sibling that you are, the type of friend that you are.
mhm.
We're not when you're not fully realized. It's not like, oh, I'm only not fully realized at work. Like, you're not
Oh, it's
fully realized in life.
yes, yes.
you
Mhm,
know
mhm,
so there's just a way that we move around life with a ceiling on top,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
The other thing that it does is, think about it, you're under distress.
mhm,
Your body starts to go into fight or flight.
mhm, mhm,
So you start to live a life or fight or flight. What does that look like? It means you're always in reaction. You're always running around trying to put out fires. You're not present, because when you're in fight or flight mode, the brain doesn't want you to sit there and contemplate. The brain wants you to move and react because it's trying to stay alive, right? It's trying to survive. So that's not your so the hormones that are being pumped and rewired into your body at that moment actually keep you moving, keep you, so you're driving, you're not present when you're driving, you're not present with your family, you're not there's just a way that it starts to have a physical toll on you. The next one is your health. It impacts your health, your wellness, your body, what you're eating, the kind of food that you're putting into your body, the kind of decisions that you're making about the way that you're moving your body, the exercise. Like, it just has a massive ripple effect that over time we just think is normal,
mm.
right? We think it's normal to live this way. We think it's normal to just eat fast food every night. We think it's normal to, not, see your friends but every 3 months. Like,
Mm,
and these things don't have to be normal,
no.
right?
Mm,
And so there's a massive ripple effect. And then, and I think the biggest one is that you get to know yourself in a particular way that doesn't empower your life. What do I
mercy.
mean? You get to know yourself as someone who is like avoiding things. You get to know yourself as someone who's not happy. You get to know yourself as someone, who can't have difficult conversations, like, whatever the situation is that you're up against. You get to know yourself as someone who can't handle that, who can't go for that, who can't push that. So you get to know yourself as a smaller version of yourself, as a
Mercy.
version of yourself that's not powerful and free and fully alive, right?
Mercy.
And that's, you talked about mask earlier. That becomes a mask. That
Mm-hmm.
becomes a mask. And the other crazy thing is that all of that, then you start to try to hide it,
Mm.
right? You try to hide it because it's like the moment you start exposing it, it all starts crumbling. So we spend so much energy trying to pretend and
Yes.
trying to hide and trying to, oh no, we got it all okay. Oh no, everything's fine. Everything, no, I don't need help. No, I'm okay, and that, oh my God, it's so exhausting. It's so
Mm-hmm.
exhausting, and you deserve better,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
1000%. Wow. This is it's really making me stop and think, right? Because when we look at leadership, so many times society tells us that leader is supposed to be perfect, right? You're supposed to have all the answers. You're supposed to have your composure at all times. You have the control. And many times, like you said, when that exposure comes, because we've set up this fairy tale, all of a sudden it's like a hard crash, right? Or there's an embarrassment, or there's shame around the struggle. Because we believe, and we've caused everybody around us to believe, that we should be able to handle everything, that it makes it difficult when you come. I mean, everybody, I think, comes to that moment where sometimes you just can't handle everything, right? And you either are going to hit a wall or you're going to ask for help. And if we have built up this myth that we can do it all, right, and we have shut out any sort of assistance, right, or help, then when we get to that place, there's this shame that comes around it, right? And it ends up being a bigger deal than if we had just stayed open and allowed ourselves to be authentic in our humanity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As not being perfect but progressive,
Yeah.
then we could actually move forward with the team when we find. And what I have found too is, Gary, sometimes I was trying to carry everything and my team was sitting back watching, but they were waiting anxiously, not anxious like desperate, but with excitement, like they wanted to help. And
Mhm.
many times
Mhm.
we are a blessing to others when we allow them to come in and assist, or allow them to come in and take over that burden or that heavy weight. And what I found also is, now you got me going real quick,
Yeah,
that
go for it.
sometimes I think that I have all the answers and that I can do it well, and I found that there's somebody on my team who could do it better.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do it
Yeah.
better. And they weren't trying to take the spotlight. They really wanted to do it for the team. And we ended up being more successful when I stepped back and allowed the team to come in and create this team's success.
100%. 100%. And if you encourage the because what you want, if you because what happens is when you're controlling everything, you also control the strategizing, right?
Mhm.
The problem solving, which is like that is the worst place you want to be, because that nothing will get done without you.
Yes.
When you are the controller of the strategy, when you are the problem solver, when you are the one that has to solve all the problems, nothing will get done without you. In a team environment, you want everybody to own the strategy. Yes, you ultimately have the final say. You ultimately have the final, okay, this is the idea that we're going with, but
Mhm.
everybody should be collaborating with strategies. Everybody should be bringing you the
Yeah.
solutions. Like
Yes.
let's put them all in a
Yeah.
pot and let's look and let's see. And yeah, you can say, okay, let's go with this one. When you do that, I don't just explain why. I always say why we're going with that one. Let me give
Mhm.
you context so you understand where my head is at, where you understand, so you understand the values that
Mhm.
I'm looking for, or the pain
Mhm.
points that I'm looking to address, or
Mhm.
the thresholds that I'm willing to push and the thresholds that I'm not willing to pull. That's part of the
Mhm.
training. If I just say go with this and I walk away, well, I just missed a big teachable moment,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And if I And I get it. When you're busy and you're moving and you're in reaction and you're putting out fires, that's what
Mhm.
happens. You're just moving on, right? You're
Yes.
just, oh, I don't have time for this. Gotta go. Gotta keep it moving. Gotta, you
Right.
know. But if you pause and you're willing to have those conversations, what you're gonna find is over time,
Mhm.
not right away. At
Mhm.
first, it's gonna be more work because
Mhm.
now you're adding on top of that, you're adding the training component.
Yes.
But over time, and not too long, in 3 months to 6 months, you will have a transformed team. It doesn't have to be a long time, but if you're doing this every time over just for 3 months consistently, stop
Systems.
and explain why.
Mhm.
Stop and even ask. I asked them, walk me through your decision making.
Mm.
Why did you decide to do this? Because sometimes for me, this happens a lot with my team. I'll go, what in the hell were they thinking? Like, what would they do that? Like, what could possess them? But when I stop and I ask them to walk me through the thought process, I'm like, oh, I see what you were trying to value here. And sometimes what they were trying to value is not bothering me, right? Sometimes what they were trying to prioritize was, I want to prove that I don't have to bother you or go to you. And then I have to go, okay, well, you're not bothering me. These are the types of questions that I could very easily answer and save you 2 hours of work.
Mhm.
So but but if I don't have that curiosity and if
Mhm.
I'm willing to get down and understand, well, I never discover that,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
I just judge the situation and go some, or I walk away. Let me just do this myself. Because yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. At that moment in time, it would be quicker if you do it yourself. But
Mhm.
that can you're kicking down. You can only kick that can down the road for so long.
Mhm. Most
Yeah.
definitely. So leaders, again, this is a great place for reflection, right? And I want you to also think about this, right? When we model imbalance, when others see you carrying everything, they may feel pressure to mirror that behavior, perpetuating the cycle of over responsibility, right? You heard Gary and what he just shared with us, right? At the end of the day, we are there to help our team grow. He says, if you are consistent, Gary said, if you are consistent for 3 months in explaining, in telling the why, it causes them to understand the why, and they will then begin to stop coming to you with the same questions, but the team will be able to move forward in alignment with what you have been teaching them. So ask yourselves, how can you cause there to be a consistency as a culture within the organization that you're leading? I also want you to consider this: the more you carry alone, the less space there is for true connection, joy, and growth. It's not just about the weight of the task, but the invisible tax on your mental clarity, emotional well being. So, Gary, this then brings me, I have two questions that I want to ask you before we wrap this up. So here's the second to last one. What's something that most business owners right now are doing that is quietly sabotaging their growth? What's something most business owners are doing right now that's quietly sabotaging their growth?
Yeah. So I think the biggest obstacle that entrepreneurs have is they're just in reaction. They're in a hamster wheel, right? There's two things. Number one, there's just a hustle to growing a business, especially when you start and it's just you, right? You're doing everything, you're wearing multiple hats. You might be working a full-time job and starting your business, or you might be taking care of the kids while you're starting a business. So there's just a natural place where there's just a hustle that you're always running up against. The other thing that's happening is that we just live very reactionary lives right now. We are overstimulated. Never in the history of humanity have we been disstimulated before. We have devices in front of our faces. We have screens and lights in front of our faces all day long. and these devices are dinging and beeping and trying to get our attention and trying to get us to click and trying to get us to play games, and so there's just a way that our nervous system is also getting fried,
Mm.
and we are losing the ability to reflect, to pause, to be still. The work that we're asking people to do requires that. It
Yes.
requires pause. It requires
Mm.
stillness. The process of you looking at your blind spots and
Mm.
asking yourself tough questions, hearing tough feedback requires pause. The
Yes.
the I would have never had that moment of being on the floor in my kitchen if I was watching TV or playing a game on my phone or listening to music. I had I was in a moment of reflection. I was in a moment of pausing and asking myself some really deep, profound questions and allowing the answers and being willing to be with the discomfort that those answers brought. Like I
Mm.
had to let my heart break in that
Mm.
moment. I had to, like, literally, I'm not kidding. I was on the floor in my kitchen. And I'm
Mm.
not like that type of person, but I allowed my heart to break in that moment because
Mm.
that was what needed to happen.
Mm.
We need to have space in order to do that work. And so if you're an entrepreneur, you have to figure out how to get yourself out of reaction. You
Mm.
have to create moments of pause and reflection. For
Mm.
the number one way of doing that is just making sure that you're always working inside of a business plan, inside of a plan.
Mhm.
Most people work inside of a to-do list.
Mhm.
A to-do list is designed to keep you putting out fires. A to-do list is designed. The to-do list doesn't have the site. The to-do list just has the urgency of the moment, the urgency of that day. So by design, the to-do list is a fire putting out tool. You need
Mhm.
to plan. You need to, if you're launching a product, you need to work months behind and retroactively and re-engineer reverse engineer. That's the word I'm looking for. Reverse engineer the launch, the marketing, the sale, like all the things that you need. You've got
Mhm.
to do the work of planning that out. Now, it doesn't mean that everything's going to work out. And one of the things, sometimes creating a plan feels like more work,
Mhm. Then
but
actually,
you have to go through the exercise of doing that, because what having a plan will let you do is it'll let you pivot quicker. It'll
mhm.
let you put out fires quicker because you've already mapped out a path, right?
Mm.
Um, so that's probably the biggest one. I also think everybody needs to have some type of mindfulness practice now.
Yes.
You can't just, you need to do something to counteract
Yes.
the life that we're living. And especially if you live in a city, you got to think about it. 100 years ago, we were living very different lifestyles. We were
Sure.
not, lights weren't on all the time.
Mm.
We didn't have
Phones.
17 million channels on. Like, you had three channels. Like, we grew up with three channels and that's it, and they went off at midnight. Like,
Mm.
those were the types of, now there's just so much. So that has an impact on us. It has an
Yes.
impact on how we process, how we react. So that, I
Yes.
think, is the biggest thing that I see now. Like, now when one of my clients starts working with me, they come to me with business strategy and leadership. And the first thing I do is, like, put in mindfulness practices, put in
Mm.
morning rituals, put in journaling, put in meditation practices, put in
Mm.
things that make them stop.
Stop.
Um, Another thing that I do is my calendar. I have a day, one day a month, where I just call it inspiration day. And that's
Mm.
just a day where I don't work.
Mhm.
I am not in front of my machine, my computer. I go do something inspired. It could be going to the beach, it could be going to a museum, it could be going to the park. But how am
Mm.
I filling my
Yes.
cup? How
Yes.
am I inspiring myself that day? We have to
Mm.
come up with strategies like that to manage the reactiveness. Like, you can't get yourself out of reaction completely, because especially if you're in early stages of a business, you're just in hustle mode, right? Like, that's just what that's going to be. But how can you not work in reaction all the
Mhm.
time is what you have to engage in inquiry of.
Wow. I have to pause for a moment because I have to do some reflection right now,
Yeah.
because this is true to life. I
Yeah.
really appreciated what you said just now as far as, having that inspiration day, right? So those of you who are listening and watching, maybe you can't necessarily take a day off during the week, but you have the weekend, right? It's almost like a tithe. How can you give yourself some concentrated time that is not filled with problems or dramas or the next thing that has to be done? But I like what Gary put out there. He said, how can you inspire yourself? How can you inspire yourself, right?
Yeah.
What brings you joy? So many times as leaders, we get so caught up in the do, and then you take in just the other roles and responsibilities of life that we end up losing who we are. We lose Adrian. We lose Gary. What makes us laugh? What makes us smile? What is our true identity, right? Not our position. And so, to the leaders who are listening right now, we're talking our transformation station community. We are high power driven leaders who have been leading for several years now. Have you lost yourself? Do you still understand what your identity is? This is a great moment to stop and have some assessment. And I want to invite you to not just keep it internal, but talk to somebody else. Talk to another leader, a fellow leader. Ask them, hey, what brings you joy? What do you do to inspire you? Let that be a conversation. Even take it to your team. Let them listen to this podcast and take it to your team and have a discussion, right? I promise you, when you do that, you will find that, man, there's so much life to live and so much to give. So Gary, our final question for somebody who's listening right now, who may be feeling overwhelmed, they may be feeling kind of behind. They may be listening and saying, you know what, hey, Gary, Adrian, this sounds good. I want to get there, but I don't even know where to begin right now. I'm really am overwhelmed and I can't see past all of this high pressure that I'm dealing with. What's the first step? Or what would you say? What are some steps that someone could do today who's listening or watching to begin to move forward?
Yeah. So, I'm gonna give you, a very general roadmap because obviously everybody's situation in life is different. But the first place you want to look at is what are you avoiding, right? What are you avoiding? Where are you not keeping your word, right? Where are you not keeping your word to yourself and to others, but more specifically to yourselves, because we're pretty good at keeping our word to others, but we're really criminals keeping our word to ourselves. Where are you not honoring your truth, right? So there's something that you desire, there's something that you are being called to, there's something that you are wanting to do for a while and you've just been pushing it aside or pretending, or like, where are you not honoring your truth? Those, if you ask yourself those three questions, it'll very quickly start to eliminate where there is work for you to do, right? Now, that's where the hard part comes in, right? Because you might need to learn, you might need you in that case, you have to figure out, how do I learn what I need to learn to support me through this? Do I need to hire a coach? Right? Do I need to seek mentorship of some kind? Do I need to go to therapy to learn, different types of skills? Do I need to be supported in a different way? Right? Do I need to create support either by hiring support or by asking for support or by restructuring my life so that I have support? What are the ways that I need to be supported through these steps that I'm about to take? And then what's the plan? And what I mean by that is, you have to create a plan to get you there. You can't just feel your way. You can't just, because you don't have the muscle. It's like you need, and what creates the muscle is the accountability. And in order for you to accountability, you need to create a plan. Plans are not, and if you don't have the ability to figure out a plan, for example, a lot of times when you launch a business, there are a lot of things that you cannot see or that you
No.
don't even know to plan for. But you can create a plan for the next month. You can
Mhm.
create a plan for the next 2 weeks. You can create a plan for the part that you can see,
Mhm.
right? If you know that your next step is finding a mentor, well, you can create a plan for that. right? I'm going to ask around. I'm going to post. I'm going to do research. I'm going to ask ChatGPT. I'm going to, like, what are the things? And then take those things and put them in your calendar. Not the deadline, but the time that you're going to work on those things. When we only put the deadline, again, we're in reaction. You have to actually, anything that you are working towards, you have to block out the times in your calendar that you're going to work on that. So if it's, I'm going to find a therapist, okay. When during the week am I scheduling time to find therapists? What are the actions that I'm taking during that time to find therapists? We are living in a time where we have so much information and we have so many resources, and not knowing is not really an excuse anymore. Where I find that people are failing is that they take the information and then they don't put it into a structure like a calendar, and then they don't have a strong relationship to the calendar, as if like, oh, when I put something in my calendar, I'm giving my word. They put something in the calendar and they think that it's not reality. It's like, oh, what big deal? Like, no. You said you were going to do sales calls from 1 to 2. Like, when you don't do that, you're a liar.
Mercy.
Are you a liar? Are you not liars now? Okay, I got to do that. Yeah, it changes the game. Yeah, and I think the last thing I want to just say is that one of the misconceptions, pitfalls is that we should know this stuff, that it should just come easy to us, that it should be, this is the journey of being a human being, learning these skills, learning to master, the moment you climb one step, you're at the bottom of the next one.
Mercy.
So for some of you, this conversation that we're having is just illustrating the next step for you to climb. And when you're climbing a new step, you're going to have to learn, you're going to struggle, you're going to like, you're going to kick, you're going to be like, you're going to do all the things that it's just humans, you still do it. You take your step, but what do you need? Create safety. How can you do it in your way? How can you do it in a way that's authentic for you, in a way that works for you, in a way that you feel safe? Those are all beautiful, valid questions that people don't ask themselves enough. But don't judge the fact that you're at the bottom of the next step. That's life. You're always going to be at the bottom of a step.
That's right. We're always growing.
Always. And thank God.
Yeah, seriously. This has indeed been a very rich and valuable conversation. And Gary, I have to tell you that we need to bring you back because we didn't even scratch the surface here. Like, there's so much more that we could do to be able to really dig into this, right? To those of us who are watching and listening, we talked today about the hidden cost of doing it all and how it stunts leadership growth. And Gary gave us some really good, valuable tips, practical principles for us as leaders. We're a leadership community, right? So he gave us practical principles that we could literally today move forward with. Now, Gary, I know that there are leaders who are listening and they want to engage with you. We heard you mention several times about your coaching practice. So please share with us, if someone wants to engage or get a hold of your resources or you, what's the best way to be able to do that?
I am, my website is GaryMontalvo.com. I also have a podcast, The Ownership Game, and we publish episodes every Tuesday. And yeah, I work with entrepreneurs primarily, or mid-sized, to small companies, and do consulting work. If you want to talk, and by the way, I'm not one of these people that's like, like, if you want to ask me questions and pick my brain, absolutely ask me questions and pick my brain. You will never get well, you need to pay me to ask me that. I'm happy to ask you, support you and ask questions. Please reach out. I'm very Googleable. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, just GaryMontalvo.com. It'll come up.
I love it. And the links to him will be in the description. Transformation Station community, we want to support Gary and we want to grow. So I'm going to invite all of you to literally tap on those links and reach out to him, grab these resources, and then share with us. Let me know, DM me, let me know how Gary, this episode, and the resources are causing you to grow transformationally as a leader. And I promise you on subsequent episode podcasts, I will share what you're telling to us. Gary, thank you so much again for joining us. It's been a
My pleasure.
joy to have you here with us.
Here.
We look forward to seeing you again. I promise we'll see you again.
Anytime, sister, please. Anytime. I'm ready. And thank you. I mean it. I have a podcast myself, so I know what it means when you invite somebody and you bring them to your community, and it's like bringing your baby home. It's like bringing. It's like you. So thank you for trusting me, and I hope that it was valuable for your listeners.
Extremely valuable. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. All right. Well, listen. If this conversation hit home for you, here's your next step. I want to invite you to take a look at where you might be holding on too tightly and ask yourself, what would happen if I simply let go and let others in? Leadership isn't about doing everything. It's about creating the space where others can rise with you. So listen, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share this episode so that you don't miss next week's conversation. Until next time, keep on growing, keep on leading, and keep on transforming.